Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm Jeff Howard, and I'm super delighted because I have Jon James Smith with me. Hey, Jon.
Hey, how's it going?
It is going so well, and I'm going to tell everyone right now, we got a nice rapport going because you are here in person from London because you flew out for Film Invasion Los Angeles.
I did, yeah.
Which is a huge compliment. Thank you so much for coming.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and now I will tell everyone why you're here, or I already did, but I'll tell our history. So in 2022, I first became aware of you and your work with the film Last Orders. It was at Film Invasion Los Angeles in 2022 and took home the Grand Jury Award for Best Short Film Horror. And it was great. It was remotely, you had a good impression of us, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, you guys were so supportive, and Last Orders was a strange film. Sort of not every festival necessarily got it. It was very sort of hit and miss because it's a very slow burn, and you guys just seemed to really get it and love it, and love it for the right reasons. And so, I really wish I could have made it out. So when I sent you guys Babushka and you accepted it, I was like, there's no way I'm not going to be here.
Yeah, and I have a memory, I hope my memory is correct, that you emailed like about Babushka, and I told you, that's like my favorite word. Like that's a word that my Ukrainian grandparents would use. And so it was really I was like, wow. So Jon made this great film, Last Orders. His next film is like one of my favorite words. So I was eager to see it. And when I saw it, I'm like, oh, I know the jury's going to love it. And so we're talking the day after Film Invasion Los Angeles 2025 wrapped up, which Babushka screened in. And Babushka took home the Grand Jury Award for Best Featurette Horror because it's 30 minutes, yeah?
Yeah, it's just over 27 minutes.
27.
So a very awkward length for festivals.
I admit festivals have a hard time with that, but we don't because we are the idealistic festival who only cares about quality. So, if something 27 minutes is great, if something 41 minutes is great, we make it work because our goal is everyone who comes to the festival leaves going, every film I saw was good. Like that's our goal.
Well, Last Orders was just over 21 minutes, which is also long enough to be problematic. I mean, there's a few of the big festivals we couldn't submit to because they're 20 minutes max. And so you'd think, well, you could cut a minute outright. And I tried to. I looked at it and I was just like, nah, this is the film I wanted to make. So
right, and that's what you should do. But I just smiled when you said that because one reason why Last Orders won the award for Best Short Film Horror and Babushka won the award for Best Short Featurette Horror is because we found after COVID that longer shorts were getting a lot better. Like before COVID, honestly, if something was over 15 minutes, there was normally something wrong. Like you would watch it and you'd be like, yeah, they love the smell of their own, like something. But I don't know, people's editing got better, I think, with isolation of COVID. And all of a sudden we had all these great films near half an hour to 45 minutes. And we finally decided as a jury to redefine lengths because we used to say under 45 was a short and over 45 was a feature. And then a 41-minute film is competing with a 7-minute film for the same award? Like, ridiculous. So now we're a 20 minutes or less is a short, 20 to 60 is a featurette, and over 60 is a feature. So amusingly, when you say Last Orders is 21, it actually would have been a featurette if we'd had those rules back then.
Yeah. I mean, it's great that you guys take that because a lot of festivals will take sort of like 15 or 20 minutes and under as a short, and then there's just a gap, and then they're sort of like 60 minutes and over as a feature, and there's no place for sort of featurettes.
There isn't, which is, and that causes, well, for me, that causes a lot of issues too, because, there's a lot of great work in there, and so it is, well, I mean, we do that because we care, and we don't want to exclude anything. Sometimes there's just wonderful films in that odd time range, but I guess my insight might be that with people getting better at editing, it is that if something now is like Babushka's 27, it's because it needed to be. It isn't that you had a 40-minute film and you tried to squeeze it in. You know what I mean? Now it's the proper length. And also, I think audiences are learning from streaming. One thing streaming did, right? Instead of every TV series having to be a 22-minute episode every week, now, right, you'll stream a TV series and you'll have a 27-minute episode and a 35-minute. Like every episode changes length based on what the edit needed. So, yeah,
Yeah, I think the rules are kind of, well, I'm not sure there are any rules anymore, because with TV and film being blended together, it's sort of like people just want quality, right? They want a good story and they want something to connect to.
Exactly. And so, of course, we had to make up some silly rules of names of lengths just so we could give awards properly, because it was just, I wouldn't want Babushka to be in, I wouldn't want a 7-minute horror film and Babushka to go against each other, because I know what's going to happen. Jury members are either going to be like, they're going to cheat somebody because they're going to have a bias on length. They're either going to be like, well, the 7-minute one isn't important enough to give an award to, or the 27 one, they didn't have the, you know what I mean? Like, I had to wait too long for a wonderful, you know what I mean? So anyway.
Yeah, it's kind of a different art form, really. And so the reason that Babushka is so long, and we didn't plan it to be that long, we sort of thought it would be around 20 minutes. But I kind of feel like especially with horror shorts, sometimes it's almost just like a sketch or a comedy sketch. And it's like, there's definitely a place for those, but I think like our aim with this is that we wanted to make something that could be a feature, and we wanted to kind of draw the audience into a story and the characters, and we just couldn't really do that in 5 minutes. And so we were like, let's just make it as long as it needs to be to kind of prove what we need to prove. And it's funny because you look at all the Oscar-winning shorts and they're all like 45 minutes long. So, and it kind of makes sense because you need that time to really connect with characters and to really care about what you're sort of seeing. And with horror, I think it's especially important because you're not going to scare people until they're really connected with what's going on. And like one of the biggest compliments we've had at the festival is that people are like, I feel like I've watched a feature when I've seen Babushka. And so it's, it's packed. It doesn't drag at all. Like, we've earned that 27 minutes. And like, I mean, yeah, the response has been amazing. And I'm glad, even though there's a few festivals that I know have rejected us because of length and ones we can't even enter, like I wouldn't have changed anything. Like, this is the movie we needed to make.
Exactly, yeah. In fact, I know of a filmmaker or two who like has something around your length and they do a separate edit for those 20 and under festivals, and it kills their soul, right? Because they're like, yeah, that festival needed the length that actually like leaves out some important things.
Yeah, and the other thing is that I've made this as a sort of calling card for me as a director, so that we can make the feature. And it kind of, I think, with a 5-minute film, it doesn't matter how good it is. It's like a different art form, so it doesn't necessarily prove you could be trusted with a feature just because you can do a 5-minute sketch. Whereas I feel like with a half-an-hour film, if you can hold someone's attention and keep them on the edge of their seat for half an hour, you could probably do it for an hour and a half. Like, I feel like I've earned trust with this one being that length, and that to me is more valuable than just sort of going to every festival on the planet.
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, you're showing the directing ability, and also it just feels more cinematic, right? When it's on, like, I mean, by the way, we had a couple of horror. It's funny because when you mention horror comedy, everyone loves a little horror comedy, but they are always under 10.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're really just setting up something bloody and funny. It's always, which I love, right? Dark humor is so much fun.
People love them, and they play really well at festivals because when you're surrounded by people, like, humor and atmosphere and everything, it's kind of there. So I think festivals like to program those, and of course they can program 3 or 4 of those instead of our movie. So it's quite tough. So when we get into a festival, it's a big compliment because we know we're covering sort of 4 other movies.
True. Yeah, you're aware of that. You're aware that, by the way, thank you for having empathy for the festival people, because, I mean, it's funny. I always talk about how our festivals stress that we only care about quality and we're going to show that 27 or that 41-minute film no matter what. But when I look at those festivals that just program 58-minute films, I go, yeah, you're really good at capitalism. Like, you understand. Because also they're doing the math of how many audience members each. They'd rather do a block of 10 8-minute films in 2 hours. We do a block of 3 or 4. And that naturally cuts the number of tickets you can sell and everything. But we want to watch great movies. So that's why we need films like Babushka. All right, so you were sort of getting into why you made Babushka. But let's just jump back. I told you we were going to jump back. By the way, I think in the introduction, I didn't mention that you came in from London, or did I?
I can't remember, but yeah.
I remember because we had the false start. But thank you for coming from London for the festival.
Yeah, no, it's been great. I'm glad I came out.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. And so now I'm asking you that question I warned you about, which is you're clearly a very creative person because you know what I didn't mention, but I think maybe because I thought it went without saying, but both films you wrote and directed and produced or co-produced.
Yes. So I was involved. Well, Last Orders, the film that screened at your festival a few years ago, I kind of did almost everything. So we did that in lockdown, right in the middle of the pandemic, and for pretty much no money. We had access to a pub and a couple of great actors, and I needed a couple of other crew people just to help focus and record sound. And yeah, we basically just made this kind of weird, atmospheric, sort of ghost death kind of story in a pub, which is such a contrast to Babushka, which is sort of almost like a mini studio movie that we shot out here in LA.
Yeah, which is also cool for you, right, as a director, to show what different styles you use, because Last Orders is wonderful. It's like a noir. It's wonderfully dark visually because it's at night in a closed pub. Whereas Babushka's, the color palette's just, it leaps off the screen.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely similarities in them. I think you can probably tell they're made by the same person, but yeah, I mean, they are very different. I mean, the film I made before Last Orders, Do Not Disturb, was actually shot out here in LA and felt like a kind of mini thriller blockbuster as well. And I think when you're making indie films and you're doing a lot yourself, there's kind of a tendency to want to step up each time. But sometimes that means you kind of get stuck not doing anything. And with Last Orders, because sort of nobody was doing anything because everything was on lockdown because of the pandemic, I kind of was just like, I just want to do something, and I don't really care what happens to it, and if I have to do everything. And it was kind of a blessing in disguise because it sort of helped me, I guess, get over myself a little bit. And I think if I hadn't have done that, it wouldn't have led to doing Babushka, which was obviously a much bigger movie. So it's kind of, sometimes it feels like you have to take a step back, but you're not. You're just kind of getting out of whatever mindset you're stuck in about progressing.
For sure. Well, and again, like a global pandemic hit, like that threw a lot of, I think every person on earth sort of had a weird moment there where, yeah, you weren't backtracking, you were just moving forward, but in an environment where moving forward really got redefined.
Yeah, well, there was no pressure to do anything in lockdown, which kind of was nice because it gave everybody breathing space and it gave you time to kind of reassess. And it was like, okay, so what am I just going to do for fun? And it was like, I'm going to make a movie with what I've got. And that's what we did.
So cool. All right. Well, again, the prepared question was, you write, you direct, even more than that. So were you a creative kid? When did you first get the bug for cinema? Were you into writing first, into visuals first? What's your creative journey?
I've always been creative and I've always written stories, but I guess I always feel like I was a little bit late to the game with filmmaking. I'd never really thought about what I wanted to do with my life until I had to choose what I was doing for my A-levels. And that was kind of the first point where somebody was like, okay, we're not going to give you a schedule, like you get to choose what you study. And out of the things I had, which were kind of just the basics like geography and maths and stuff, there was also film and media. And so obviously 16-year-old me was like, I'm going to do that because it's fun. And then it kind of, it had never occurred to me that that's what I wanted to do. But the second I started, I just knew that's what I'm going to do with my life. It just seemed to fit. And then I sort of grew up in Bournemouth, which is sort of near a very good film school. So it kind of just made sense to go there. And that's kind of just what started everything. And then, I've just been on that journey ever since.
And A-levels, for those of us who aren't British, so A-levels is that's like high school, like the last couple of years of high school, you get more independent
it's like
control of your
18.
16 to 18, yeah. So for us, that'd be like grade 10, 11, 12-ish.
Yeah.
And then you graduate, and then you go to university. So you chose a film school for university.
Yeah, so I went to an art college. I went to the same place that Edgar Wright went to, which is the Bournemouth Arts Institute. But they've got a very good film course. It's very practical, very hands-on. And so we got the chance to shoot on a lot of 16mm film and just get stuck in and just learn how.
And you'd always been a creative kid. You were a storyteller. You were kind of kid who wrote short stories and fun stuff. And so was it very natural for you to just shift your writing into screenwriting, so to speak?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's funny. I was thinking about this the other day because you hear about a lot of filmmakers talk about how they had Super 8 cameras when they were like 10 and they'd make these sort of stop motion movies and stuff like that. And I never really did that, but I kind of think, I remember when I was a little kid and I'd have like a stills camera and I'd take pictures of like an action man swinging from a tree, but I could never quite get it how I wanted it. It just didn't quite look right. And I'd try and pose him like climbing and doing stuff. And I realized the other day what I was trying to achieve was motion. I just didn't realize it at the time and didn't have access to like a video or a film camera. So I think that desire was there. I just didn't quite make the connection or have like an old Super 8 camera lying around. So it sort of, it did feel like an easy transition once I could get a hold of something. It just felt like that was my medium for expressing myself.
Yeah, and it sounds like you produced a few things at that A-level stage.
Yeah, just a few terrible
films. Student, high school films that you don't want anyone to see anymore.
I don't know. Maybe I should put them up on YouTube at some point. But I think you can see that I like genre and darker things. And weirdly, I think there might even be a similarity in sort of attempts at lighting style to the stuff I do now. Like there's something about the sort of darker, more atmospheric stuff that I was trying to achieve even then when I didn't necessarily know I was trying to achieve it.
And it sounds like at Bournemouth it was fairly, like you started shooting pretty quickly?
Yeah, I mean, one of the first projects they made us do was shoot 100 feet of 16mm on a Bolex. And they gave us reversal stock, which, if you don't know, is very unforgiving. You only have a few stops of latitude. So naturally, a lot of it was just under or overexposed and looked terrible. But it was great because it got you thinking about what you were doing. And like back then, there were sort of video cameras you could use, but they weren't as accessible as they are now. But with video, it's like you're just shooting as much as you want without really thinking about it because it's just cheap. So doing that first was good because it just made everyone stop and slow down and think, oh, okay, we have to think about this. And we had to edit in camera as well. So that was quite a good start for then going on and shooting sort of 6 rolls of film.
And it was the kind of program where it sounds like you were doing every role too, because obviously you talked about shooting. So you were learning every role on a film set, so to speak, right? Some cinematography, some directing. It wasn't like you could say, I want to be in a directing program, and then other students are doing all the other roles.
So it was film production. That was the course. But to start with in the first year, you got a taste of everything. And of course, 60% of the people on the course wanted to be directors, or at least thought that at the beginning. But then as you kind of go on through the second and third year, you specialize. But I kind of realized quite early on that all the directors were kind of just sat in sort of studios listening to people talk about directing and their kind of opinions on stuff. And I could see all the sort of cinematography students were learning how to load cameras and playing with stuff. And I was just like, I want to do that. Even though I always wanted to write and direct, I was like, I want to learn how to use the kit so that I can go and make a feature myself. So I never studied directing or screenwriting when I was at film school. It was all cinematography, and I was mostly a clapper loader, actually. So I've always been quite technical, but yeah, especially at film school. And it wasn't until a year or two after I graduated that I made my first short film.
And when you graduated, did you start working in cinematography?
I did a bit, yeah. It was weird. I graduated at the time when everything shifted from kind of film over to digital. It was around the time the Red MX came out. So all the music videos just went from being 16mm to pretty much being on the Red MX. So the clapper loader job sort of slightly disappeared a little bit as I graduated. But I was a camera assistant for a little bit. And then I kind of just realized that it was fun studying it, but I don't want to do this for a living. Like I'd rather make 0 budget short movies, horror films by myself.
I confess that I normally avoid the subject, but you probably hear this. You look quite young. But the fact that you're talking about loading film makes me think that you're not as young as I think.
It's deceptive. I'm older than I look. Yeah.
You are older than you look.
I'm 37 at the moment.
Okay. Yeah. I can believe you. I'm 20 years older than you. so I have no idea the difference between 20. But that's actually very cool. I think it's very beneficial. I assume you think it's beneficial that you got to work with film before it disappeared, because it did teach a different level of discipline, and it did teach, I think, a greater respect for light and what you need.
Yeah, I mean, I caught the tail end of film, really, but for quite a few years after I graduated, they were still shooting all the movies on film, really, as the digital technology was still finding its feet. But, of course, all the movies I watched as a kid that made me fall in love with cinema are all shot on film. And then getting to shoot on film myself has just given me that kind of maybe slightly snobbish love for wanting to do everything on film. But it's just because it just has that aesthetic. It just looks like the movies from the kind of 90s that I love.
I'm with you. There's some. It is funny. The Red, and then of course Ari came out with the Alexa that had a really good film look. And it's just funny. The goal of digital cameras became to look analog. Very interesting transition. All right, so you graduate and you start shooting stuff, and then when did you? Were you still always writing, like in your spare time, even though you're focusing on cinematography? Were you still letting your creative juices flow?
Yeah, so I've always kind of written sort of since about 16, I think, since I started doing those A-levels. I've always written screenplays. It's always something that's sort of been going on in the background, regardless of what else I've been doing. So I'd written a feature or two by the time that I'd graduated. And then, I've had various kind of things that I've been writing over the years. Some I've made and some I'm waiting to make.
All right, so my question was leading, because now I can ask. So did you then end up with a notebook of ideas or a stack of screenplays so that when you decided to make a short film, you had a lot of choices of your own work to decide what to shoot?
I do have a lot of like scrapbooks and post-it notes and bits of paper and like envelopes with ideas on like all over the place. But usually whenever I've actually made something, I've written it quite quickly and then realized I need to make it straight away. So Last Orders, it was like that. And with Babushka, I wrote it very quickly and was like, we need to make this. And the draft, I think there was probably about 13 drafts in the end, but it didn't really change. It was just fine-tuning little details. But usually, if it's worth making, I find it just kind of comes out right in the first draft. And there's something like sort of weird and slightly magical about it.
Do you sometimes get that feeling, like the divine hand feeling, that like, well, I don't know where that script came from, but I love that one. Let's make it. Yeah.
It doesn't seem to have a lot of logic to it. But it's strange because you still put a lot of the legwork in writing these other things. But it's a bit like luck, really. It kind of only catches you off guard. When you try and force it too much, it sort of runs away from you. And it's like you still need to do that other work. But you kind of, you have to just wait for the luck to hit in some ways. There's something a bit strange about
inspiration,
how films work.
It is wild. And when you sit down to, I'm assuming that like the 13 drafts, also after having made the film before Last Orders, after the script is complete and then you start to rewrite it, are you actually taking production in? Because obviously you're aware of what it costs to make a film, make a short. So are you also doing rewrites based on like how it'd be easiest to get it completed?
Yeah, well, with Last Orders, because we had the publication first, I was able to write for that, and I kind of knew what we had. With Babushka, I wrote it without any production.
You gave yourself no limits.
Yeah, it was just, this is the idea, I'm going to just write it. And then as we were going through pre-production, that's when most of the drafts happen, and it was just sort of slightly adjusting things. And then when we finally cast Hayley McFarland in the lead role of Babushka, I maybe slightly tweaked it for her, and then we did rehearsals, and so those were what the kind of changes were, but there were no sort of massive rewrites of anything.
And that, it sounds like it came together quite well. And how did you happen to cast her?
So,
because she's based out here, yeah?
Yeah. So I didn't write it with any actor in mind either, but I kind of knew we needed a certain sort of person, and so weirdly, I'm a really big fan of Hayley's work in Lie to Me, where she played Tim Roth's daughter, but because I love that kind of show so much, it's like timeless in my head, so I forget that it was actually quite a while ago, so it kind of never occurred to me that Hayley might fit. So I was like, oh, she's 16. And it's like, oh, no, wait, that show was a while ago. And then when I sort of had a look at her, I was like, oh, she'd be perfect. And then it was kind of like I'd written it for her then. I was like, this is the actress we need. So like that was my wish list. It was like, we need Hayley in this role. And Taylor Lawrence, one of our producers, had met Paul Sinecor, the casting director, who came on board, and then Paul ended up coming on as a full producer, and he basically just sort of reached out to Hayley's agent, and then so I flew out to LA a month and a half before the shoot, and I landed. They lost all my luggage, and I was jet lagged. Taylor picked me up from the airport, and as we're driving away from the airport, Paul phones us, and he's like, "You've got a face-to-face with Hayley tomorrow," and I was just like, "Oh, okay." And so sort of met her when I was still jet lagged. And then, she came on board. And we kind of, everything sort of cascaded really, like the second I landed, and somehow it all just fell into place right up until the day before. And we got very, very lucky. The stars just aligned with everything.
And you ended up being a British writer-director making a film in Los Angeles with... I assume you were the only person from London on the set, or did you bring some of your key people out?
So right after I landed at the airport, we drove straight to Silver Lake to meet our cinematographer, Robin Webster, who's somebody I know from film school back in Bournemouth, who I hadn't seen since film school pretty much, so for quite a long time, sort of 10, 15 years maybe. And he's been working out here, doing very well. He's doing a lot of commercials and different things. And so I reconnected with Rob, and I was just like, hey, we're making this movie. I don't know if you'd be interested. And he loved it. And we met him for a coffee when I landed, and he sort of came on board. And that was a massive relief, because I guess because I've done a lot of stuff to do with cinematography, I'm quite picky about what I want. And so I knew we needed somebody of really high caliber that we definitely couldn't afford. And so when Rob came on, it was a massive relief. And then he was able to just do so much for us in terms of helping get an amazing package in terms of like lighting and camera that we definitely wouldn't have been able to afford otherwise. And
exactly, yeah. And like Last Orders you had shot, but you knew for sure you were not going to shoot Babushka. You wanted to be directing only.
Yeah. I knew we needed a lot more and a lot more people to kind of realize it. Not that we had the budget in place to do any of that, but it was like, let's just push ahead and we'll see what happens. So, yeah.
And I guess I'll ask because, of course, Paul Sinecor is the person who helped facilitate everything getting Babushka on screen for Filmvasion Los Angeles, because he came to my home to deliver the DCP, for Pete's sake. So how did you come into contact with him? Because it seems like his involvement really helped with casting and getting a lot of things rolling. Yeah,
well, Paul's a CSA casting director, so that just sort of helped add legitimacy, I guess, especially with reaching out to like Hayley's agent and stuff. But so Taylor, our other producer, had met Paul sort of not long before we started pre-production. So he originally just came on as casting director. And then, he loved the idea.
Right, so Taylor knew him. So, and what's your relationship with Taylor? Is that...
So the first film I made out in LA called Do Not Disturb, we had an actor called Richard Shelton, and he put me in contact with Taylor back in 2016. And so we sort of started working together, and I came out and we made a commercial for the Shriekfest horror film festival competition, and we won the competition.
Like one of those 24-hour film chase sort of competitions, or 48-hour? Or
no, there wasn't a time limit.
Okay, it was just submit something.
Yeah, so it was just like a little sort of side competition that they used to run. And I remember speaking to Jen on the phone, and I was like, I think I've got the winning idea. And she was like, oh, okay, cool. And she just started producing it. And then suddenly I'm just out here, and we're doing it. And then we won, and that sort of was a really good setup for us working together. And we've been developing various kind of things over the years. And then she met Paul, and we brought him on board, and like the three of us make quite a good, powerful team for getting stuff done. Like we complement each other quite well. Complementary
skill sets, different Rolodexes, different contacts.
Probably, yeah, Rolodexes, energy, like everything.
A Rolodex is now on our phone, I guess. It's our contact list on the phone. Yeah, but exactly, yeah. look, a team can get things done. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like it. And then you were just off to the races here. You landed. You met with your lead actor, and just how long till you were shooting?
So we had, it was probably just over a month of pre-production when I was here. But
that must have been the most fun possible. It's like this is like the perfect situation, is it not?
It was equally the most fun and the most stress I've ever had, which is always the way. But I mean, we had so many big hurdles. I mean, the biggest one was the house. Like, we were looking on all the typical like Gigster type websites, and anything that resembled the big kind of craftsman house we wanted, which is the sort of Insidious style old LA house, was about $500 an hour, and we needed this thing for 3 days. And on top of that, a lot of them were like, you can't use our power and all this. And so it was like they're set up for big productions that can bring in like generators and actually have money. And we got very, very lucky. So Paul's friend, Jed the Fish, who's an old LA radio DJ.
People my age, that's a very big name.
Yeah.
He's an icon of LA 80s radio.
So he was a friend of Paul's, and he very, very kindly let us basically take over his house for the shoot, which was amazingly generous. And Jed sort of sadly passed away very recently. But yeah, I mean, we're forever grateful that he allowed us to do that. Because I mean, it's an amazing house. Like, it just looks incredible on camera. It's like its own character in the movie.
And I mean, it really goes for all cinema that location is huge. But I think in its own way, horror, the location of a horror film is one of the characters. It just always is. So yeah, a thing like that is critical to you.
Yeah, and for production value as well, which is very important for this because it's a proof of concept. Like, we wanted it to feel like a big, expensive studio movie, and that's so much easier when you've got an amazing location. And then we only had 2 locations, so it was that house, and then we had another sort of smaller craftsman house that was still in Pasadena that we rented just for the day, and we used that for the therapist scene and for the flashback in the 90s. And it's quite a small house, and it's sort of an open plan, just one open plan room, but we were able to kind of just be careful with angles to the point where we could make it look like 2 completely different locations. And yeah, it just makes such a difference to the atmosphere and the production value.
So, and it sounds like you made it fairly quickly, even though it is not a short. I imagine the script was around 30-ish pages. I mean, you knew you were making something in the half-hour range, I assume?
I think the script was maybe 20 pages or just over. I expected it to be a little shorter than it was. But the actual shoot was 4 days, which is pretty crazy.
I mean, this is an audio podcast. I just made a face, right? Because to get a 27 film and well, were there pickups or?
No.
So you got principal photography in 4 days, and you got a 27-minute film out of it?
Yeah.
That's amazingly efficient work.
Yeah, I mean...
and it looks fantastic, like you said. Well, it's funny that we have to resort to the adjective studio quality. But you know what I mean? Like,
I'm not sure studio quality means the same thing at the moment. But
I know, because we're always saying, I wish studio films... But on the technical side, they're always quite technically brilliant. It's just they don't care about story or...
Yeah.
They don't care about a lot of things that people who love cinema care about. But they always look good.
Yeah, I mean, I think Babushka does look quite expensive, but I always worry that people don't realize how much of a sacrifice it was to actually do that, because like, we're not rich trust fund filmmakers, so it, like, you know, the budget ended up being pretty big for a short. It was between probably about $30,000 and $40,000, but we really, really stretched that budget as if we had nothing. And yeah, 4 days was all we could afford, which wasn't enough time. So we did have to cut stuff and make difficult sacrifices.
Oh, so you made changes at the story level, sort of at the script level to make before those 4 days.
Yeah. So so one of the other things that we got really lucky was we managed to get a Steadicam for a couple of days, and so the final scene in the movie is a series of quite long Steadicam shots. It wasn't supposed to be one-ers, but we just didn't have time to shoot reverse shots. And so in the end scene, there's nothing to cut to, which is really tricky. in the edit, because it's like, well, okay, what do we do? And the only thing I could do was to just kind of add stuff to it in post. So we ended up adding some sort of CGI stuff. I guess I won't be specific in case people want to watch the movie.
No need.
I don't want to ruin it.
Yeah.
But we had to kind of change what that scene was so that it wasn't just kind of
right. So the oneer, you knew the oneer wasn't enough. You knew you had to. You needed to cut away from it.
Even though we had the Steadicam for the opening scene as well with the detective, me and Rob, the cinematographer, decided we didn't want to try and do a oneer. We just wanted to use the Steadicam to give you that sort of bit of energy. So just that subtle bit of movement, and then just sort of a bit of movement around following people. But we weren't going to be sort of hindered in the edit by trying to do long takes. But then we were sort of forced into that position with the last scene. And so we had to kind of just add these other elements and let the music do a lot of the heavy lifting to just make it something else, because just watching somebody walk around for 5 minutes is very boring. So we had to kind of earn that time somehow. And it was kind of a blessing in disguise, because I think some of it feels a bit sort of maybe a bit more weird and unpredictable because of that. There's one scene which is where Annie wakes up after her nightmare, that was supposed to be sort of a full scene with slightly more dynamic camera work and sort of angles and reverse angles, but we just had no time. So in the end, we just put the camera on a tripod, and it's just a wide shot of the whole living room, and you can kind of see into the kitchen and into the other hallway, and you can see the dining room table, and we just let the whole scene play out in this long shot, and it's like a minute long with the camera on a tripod not moving, which is a really weird thing to have in the middle of especially a short film where time's limited, but also especially a movie where you're trying to kind of replicate more of a studio style where you're going to be much kind of quicker and make sure you're not losing the audience. But it was a blessing in disguise, because I think it just becomes very tense because you don't kind of trust it. It's like, am I supposed to be seeing something in the background? And it's like it kind of added something, I think. But that wasn't planned. That was just the only way I can get the scene is to put the camera on a tripod and press record and just have it play out like it's on a stage.
Which is just one of those wonderful moments, like you said. It's kismet. You did it out of necessity, and then when you sit down and you're editing the film, you're like, this worked better than I expected.
Mm-hmm. It's just, is there a way in post to make it seem like this was completely intentional? And it's always those moments that people love, but it's the happy accidents.
Yeah. Well, and you had options, right? Like if it didn't work, you can always you can in post actually mimic camera moves and things within a big shot like that if you want to, right? You can zoom in and things. May not, if your resolution's good enough, which sounds like your cameras were quite good.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like people
always kind of
know.
When, you hate that?
I feel like people always know when you're trying to do that. It's sort of like if somebody set something in a police station, but all they could afford is a little room with a table, and it's like sometimes it doesn't come across as smart. It comes across as you guys didn't have the money, and so it's
all the time.
How can you kind of add, how much detail do you have to add before you get to that point? It's kind of always a bit of a balance.
For sure. But it sounds like you were quite meticulous in preparation. So good 4 days.
Yeah.
Even your compromise shots, it sounds like you went in knowing you were doing them.
Not until right before.
Right before.
But I'm a meticulous planner, sort of obsessively. So I scheduled the movie myself. But I try to switch that off when we're shooting, because you just have to make decisions, and it's better to just make a decision regardless of what it is and just keep moving. So it's sort of, it's interesting kind of balancing that perfectionist control freak side with just running through it and getting it done so you've got something.
I can remember, I rarely interject with a story of my own, but I remember having friends soon after film school or something, and they would sort of have little confidence moments, and I would always say, you just have to make the decision, and really making the decision sometimes is the most important part. Waffling is the issue. It doesn't matter if you choose option A or option B. It just matters if you choose an option, and I always say, you can't make a mistake. This is your art. Whatever you choose is what you choose. No one can say you made a mistake. That was your choice. I guess I was a believe in yourself kind of person.
Yeah. I mean, you've got no choice really, especially when it's a big production and everyone's looking at you for a decision, and standing around is wasting money. So
wasting money and losing the confidence of the people around you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, especially actors. You got to keep those actors knowing that there's an authority figure in the room who's got their back, right?
Yeah, well, we were so tightly packed with schedule as well that it was a knock-on effect. So it's like we've got maybe a more important scene coming on, and it's like I don't want to eat into that, so it's like let's just get it and go.
Right, because you scheduled it too. So you're like, I'm sure, I hope while you're directing, you are focused on a lot of things other than the schedule, but I'm sure the schedule was always ticking in the back of your mind a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. So Paul kind of stepped in as a first AD every now and then, just when we needed it. So one of the shoot days is when we did the opening crime scene where we had the Steadicam and we had a lot of extras. And of course, with no ADs and lots of extras, that's just chaos. And everyone was very excited, which was great, but yeah, it was noisy and chaotic, and like the shots as well were kind of intentionally chaotic with moving around all over the place. So like there's only so much you can plan, and then you kind of have to be comfortable in the chaos to an extent. That's actually one of the best descriptions I've heard of filmmaking, comfortable in the chaos, because it's always chaos no matter what. Yeah. But if you can be comfortable in it and stay focused, you can get everything you need. So it sounds like you obviously got everything you needed because you did a little bit of CGI, but no pickups. Yeah, I mean, the only thing we didn't get was the very last shot of the movie. So originally the movie was supposed to end with us looking at the mantelpiece and then sort of blood sprays across the pictures, and then we move over to the table and see the doll, and we just couldn't quite get it. We did several takes, but it was just an awkward shot with the Steadicam, and by this point we'd gone over a little bit, and people were starting to pack stuff away, and we had daylight coming through, and it's supposed to be night, and it was just like, okay, well, I think we've got all we can get, and so we had to rethink the end of the movie. And without giving it away, it ended up being another happy accident, really, because the movie is kind of a lot of it's about tension, and it builds a lot, and the whole thing just keeps building on itself. And by the time we get to the end, originally we had kind of quite a violent ending, and I kind of realized that we've built up so much that there's nothing we can really do that's going to be satisfying enough for the audience. And like, even if we'd had all the money and time in the world, I don't think we could quite give a satisfactory kind of ending to that, how that kind of built. And then I realized that kind of works, just kind of cutting things off how we did, because it's a proof of concept. So I kind of wanted to leave the audience hanging a little bit, like not too much that they're annoyed, but like a little bit annoyed, so that like, oh, I really want to see the feature version of this. And so that was another thing where I was like, oh, okay, this happened for the right reasons.
And it was always a focus, because I was aware that you wanted it to be a calling card for you as a director, but also proof of concept for a Babushka feature.
Yeah, so it was always designed as a proof of concept. The idea for the feature and how that's going to work was sort of always in my head, and then it was a case of, well, okay, how can I write something we could make as a short, and that's where it came from.
But you also ended up with a film that you can show to people and say, hey, by the way, you can hire me to do something else too. Yeah, because you've shown you flexed the muscles, and you made something that looks that great.
Well, I feel like sometimes, especially money people, don't have a lot of imagination. So it's like if we had done it for $5,000 and it was 5 minutes long, like we can't show it to people and be like, okay, so just imagine this but more expensive. Like they don't really know what that is. So it's like we have to make something that looks pretty close to what they're going to be getting. And like I was saying with the length as well, like it's just easier to be able to show people rather than try and pitch and tell them.
And in all honesty, when a young filmmaker says, imagine this but more expensive, the EP with the person you're talking to says to themselves, well, if I give anyone a lot of money, they can give me something good.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like that. Yeah, that one. Like, trust me, I could do something really great with more money. It's like, who can't? You know.
And even if they love the idea, they're going to take the idea and find another director who they trust. So
yeah, who's proven they won't fall on their face. Yeah, even though it's always better to trust that young director. Well, maybe not, but every story you hear, like, of Mel Brooks, getting David Lynch Eraserhead and this and that. Like whenever you give that young person a shot, it seems like they really kind of kick ass. But people's default is to trust more known entities, which I get it. It's business. The business side of film.
Yeah.
So fun. All right, so you finish up. I assume you don't stay in LA for post? You head home?
No, so post ended up taking 2 years. It's
Gotcha,
either time
because
or money.
if you're in time or money. So
It's either
it
time
can
or money.
either
We
be,
didn't have money,
It needs to be
so-
good, fast, or cheap.
Yeah.
And you went with good and cheap. So it wasn't fast.
Yeah,
or good
so-
and not overly expensive.
Yeah, so, and also adding these visual effects shots that weren't planned as well, that was kind of one of the biggest hurdles. And we had some amazing people that did us some favors and kind of just worked part-time to kind of bring that home to the standard it needed to be, which was very high to fit with the footage and everything else that we had. But it's tricky when people are doing you favors because you have to crack the whip politely, which is very awkward to do because you're very grateful, but it's like we're kind of waiting.
Yeah, that you're getting, I'm just going to use random numbers. You're getting $10,000 worth of a VFX shot for $1,000. You can't be too demanding with that person.
Yeah.
But you do want to finish your film someday.
Well, more like 50,000.
Yeah, exactly.
In this case, but like, yeah. And like, in terms of money, we would spend money when we had it. But there was, it was sort of post was quite a long journey, and we were so happy with everything we got. The shoot had gone so well, and we'd gotten so lucky that we didn't want to drop the ball with post. And so just sort of bringing everything up to that standard, it just took a long time. I mean, in terms of the score, so our composer, Kim Planet, who's also one of our executive producers, did an amazing job, and we knew we wanted to try and use a live orchestra for some of it, so we actually ended up going out to Budapest and recording the Budapest scoring orchestra, sort of doing the live rendition for us, which was amazing because I've never done anything like that before.
And that's one of the fascinating. Whenever I hear stories like that, so you were able to find an orchestra that was more affordable and still brilliant.
Yeah, well, they've done a lot of stuff. They did stuff for Get Out, and loads of big studio movies. So people in Hollywood use them all the time. But it's obviously a little bit more affordable than using an orchestra out here.
Yeah, out here or in London, obviously.
Yeah, and I was obviously in the UK, so it wasn't too far to travel to Budapest. So I went out there and met Kim, and we had this amazing recording session, and it's sort of charged by the hour as well. So it's pretty quick in and out. But because of the nature of our score, which is a little bit sort of unpredictable and sort of weird, like the quality of, especially like strings, when it's live, and it sounds different each time you do it as well, and we knew that it would just add so much. Like there's something about horror strings especially that cut straight into your kind of nervous system, and especially because we made this for big screens and for theatres, that was so important about the grandeur of what we wanted to communicate, because ultimately we want to start a horror franchise and get theatrical release, so it's like we need to be able to get this into a big screen and just have it feel like it's engulfing you. And getting the orchestra was a big part of that.
Would have to be, because it's beaten to death how important music is to film and how important. But when a film is scored and it's performed by live musicians, it makes it so much more cinematic. It really does. Versus, I realize there's great people with all their samples and they can sample the hell out of something and mimic an orchestra. But it's just not the same.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not. But yeah, the music, it's the same with The Last Orders, really. So Last Orders was samples, but there's times in both films where I kind of let the visuals take a back seat and let the music just take over. So in Babushka, it's the opening scene. So we open with a minute-long, sort of long take where the camera's just on the front of a car, like a sort of old 80s detective movie where they're sort of racing to the scene. And that is just kind of a platform for the music to basically just prep the audience. And that's also our sort of title sequence. and especially some of those longer Steadicam shots as well. Like the music's so important. Like it's way more important than the visuals in those moments. But it's just music's just a cheat code for getting the audience to feel how you want them to feel. So it's like there's a lot of music as well. I remember Kim when I first mentioned sort of where I envisioned having music, he was just like, that's a lot. That's way more than normal. And so we sort of went back and forth a bit and eventually kind of like figured it out. But there's not a lot of points in the film where there isn't music. And I don't think it's invasive. I think it does carry it nicely, but it's sort of I want you to feel like you're sat with the orchestra almost when you're in the cinema, and it does feel just like a bigger experience.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, it fits with that adjective we were using, the studio caliber thing. You know, they've always had their own damn orchestra, so they just turn to somebody and say, "Here's what we need," and you feel it is a very, very different experience. It's a much bigger experience when a film is scored for real. That's one of the things I think is great about Nolan. Half the time, I like the score of his films better than the film.
Yeah, people always mention the music when we have screenings as well. At this one as well in the Q&A, I know a couple of people asked about the music.
Oh, excellent. I know this is fun to talk to you like day and a half after your screening.
Yeah.
Your LA premiere, I imagine.
Yes, yeah.
Actually, I didn't even double check. Was it LA premiere or World? Yeah, LA premiere.
Yeah.
And actually, amusingly, that's correct. I was about to say, was Last Orders your LA premiere too? Did we get to premiere it?
I can't remember.
Who knows?
It was so long ago.
It was 3 years ago, I know. Well, so what was music the last piece to add? Or were the VFX you're still waiting on the VFX?
Yeah, so the visual effects took a long time, and the sound design kind of did as well. So the music was sort of happening gradually.
I was going to say, wouldn't the sound design almost when you want to wait till the VFX were there?
Yeah, so we could kind of do some bits, but yeah, it was a little bit disjointed in that sense. That we were occasionally waiting for one thing, and but we did several passes of the score with samples just so we knew what we were kind of doing, and because we had the luxury of time because we were waiting for the visual effects, and so that was kind of good with the music because we could do quite a few drafts and really play around with it and experiment. And then when it was all done, it was off to Budapest to record it. And then the color grade as well. Like we spent quite a while trying to find the right colorist, and then it got to a point where Rob, our cinematographer, just sat down and just did it himself, and he was like, we'll get a colorist to kind of do a neater version of what I've done. But when we got to that point, he was like, I kind of like it. I'm kind of happy with it. And then we sort of went back and forth, just sort of tweaking things whilst we were waiting for other things. And then got to the point where we were like, I don't think hiring anyone's going to change this. I think we're happy with it because we've just spent so long tinkering with it.
Which in a way was a luxury of your patience, saying to yourself, okay, 2 years of post, you found other ways to get the quality you wanted without throwing a ton of money at it.
Yeah, and the generosity of Rob and Kim and just spending all that time doing it as well. Like with this, I really wanted to give people a chance to just make something they're really proud of and excited for, and people will put time and effort into stuff when you do that and when it's exciting. So
yeah, and it's great to know talented people who need opportunities.
Yeah. I think we kind of, with The Last Orders especially, I was really lucky to get to work with Alistair Parker and Stephen Elder, who were the two main actors in Last Orders. And I think, it was because it was on lockdown. Nobody was doing anything, and so they were more than happy to come and do this no-budget film with this person they'd never met before. I think with Babushka, I kind of just caught some talented people at the perfect time, and they just really wanted to kind of just do something maybe a bit more cinematic and narrative driven. And
I've had many an actor friend say to me, we just want to be in good work. And very often an actor has almost no control on whether or not it's good. So, Yeah, when there's something people sense is good, not that we want to walk around in life getting people to do things for less than they deserve, but yeah, it's an opportunity.
Yeah, and it really did kind of snowball, and there was a really nice energy. And as it got kind of bigger and bigger, more people sort of wanted to be involved. And so that's, I think, partly why the stars aligned for us, and we just ended up actually getting way more than we expected. And it was it wasn't a runaway train, but we only just had control of it.
Yeah, I wish I could think of a great metaphor for a runaway train that's not quite going too fast. But, we just finished a 4-day festival. And my brain is fried. So then you finished the 2 years of post and you're quite pleased.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like everybody's done absolutely everything they could have done with what we had. So one of the questions I got in the Q&A at Film Invasion LA was, what would you change about the movie if you could go back, or what would you tell yourself? And I was like, I don't mean this to come across as arrogant, but I wouldn't change anything. Like, I got to make the movie I set out to make, and like I put so much time and money and effort into it. Like, there's nothing else I think I or anybody could have done to elevate it more than we did, which is interesting because I kind of got everything on my wish list, other than like if we'd had more time, obviously. But we we got everything and more. Like, we got the house, we got Haley, an amazing cast, great DP, a live orchestra, like all this stuff. So it was like I had a sort of a new weird anxiety that I hadn't had before, where I was like, you've got everything you wanted, so it better be good because you have no excuses. And so you start to have a more existential crisis where it's like, oh, did I make the right overall choice? Was the script good enough? Like, especially because other people invested in me, which is the first time that's kind of happened as well. So it was like, okay, this has to deliver what we said it would.
Yeah, because the way Last Orders came together, you did so much by yourself because of lockdown.
There was no pressure.
The stakes were like, I can send this anywhere I want.
Yeah.
It's just me. But yeah, now you're beholden to all the artists who contributed because huge collaboration.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I assume everyone has been very pleased with the results.
Yeah, I mean, the response has been amazing. We had a cast and crew screening last year that went really well. And so far at festivals, from what I've seen, people seem to really genuinely like it.
And did the cast and crew screening happen out here because everyone's here? You didn't?
Yeah.
There was, everyone couldn't, too bad. Would have been wonderful for everyone to come visit London to see it.
Yeah, most people were out here, so I think we screened at the Lemley in North Hollywood.
Yeah, Lemley NoHo.
Which was quite a great kind of venue. But yeah, I mean, it's a movie that belongs on a cinema screen. Like Last Orders as well, because they're very much about atmosphere, and it needs to be kind of loud and surrounding you, and like it's not an iPhone YouTube movie, and it's very dark as well, and like you need that kind of darkness because we hide things in the shadows, and we do a lot of like sneaky little things visually, and you need it on a big screen in your face, especially with the orchestral kind of score as well. There's a few really big sort of horrific moments we've got, and it's great seeing that play out in like a crowded theater, because it's just like, yeah. And
I do think that was my reaction, because as you can imagine, actually the first time I saw it was in that room right over there on a nice 55-inch TV. I connect this little laptop to that by an HDMI cable, so all my festival, all my juror work for the festival is in there, because I would never watch on a computer, like where you're talking 13-inch or 25-inch monitor or whatever. I don't even remember how big my monitor is. I have one big monitor, but anyway, it's still not good enough.
No, especially for horror, it just seems unfair.
And if you're even if you have a 42-inch computer monitor, which who does, but you're still sitting at a computer with a keyboard in front of you and whatnot, and it's like you're distracted.
Yeah, your phone's there as well.
No, I have the laptop is like on a little table away from me, and I just let it play, and I'll tell you, my reaction was like, I don't remember it exactly, but my wife was with me, and I was like, hey, this is alumni, and I told her how you and I had emailed back and forth a bit about Babushka, and I was like, and when it finished, I was like, that was impressive. And she's like, yeah, that one's going to get in. I'm like, oh yeah, the rest of the jury's going to love it too. But you know what I mean? Like it was because I had a lot of respect for Last Orders. And I must confess, as a festival programmer, although I guess I'm supposed to call myself a festival runner now, but when people whose work you like come back, you never know because you're a little more invested, right, in the quality of it. And there's different paths people can take, but some people sometimes sort of hurt themselves financially with that first film, and then the next one is made really poorly because they're just like they want to keep creating, but they don't want to do that to themselves again.
Yeah.
And that breaks my heart. And then they're like, oh, I didn't get in this time. I hate when they say that to me. I'm like, there's a lot of people on the jury. It's not just me. But what do you expect? This one looked like crap. I would never say that. But you know what I mean? So it's always wonderful for me as a festival runner when someone comes back with another film and they've upped their game in every way. Makes me happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for putting a little joy in someone's life with a horror movie. But that's why you make cinema, right? I mean, both for yourself and because it does become part of people's lives.
Yeah, I mean, this movie's been my life for the past 3 years. So, yeah, it's like I'm definitely a bit burnt out. So it's nice to finally get to sit with audiences and see.
Yeah, this is 2025 is your year to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then while you're doing that, are you still writing? Have you written the next one, the one that you wrote and looked at and said, well, this one needs to be made?
Well, I mean, so the priority now is we want to make Babushka into
and you want the feature.
Film. Yeah.
Is the feature script complete?
No, not yet. But it's been Film Invasion LA has been really useful in that sense because we've met some really interesting people and had some really good advice about how to move forward. So, yeah, we're kind of, at the moment, we're sort of navigating how we find the right kind of partners to move forward and just how to do that, especially at a point where the industry is just very weird and no one quite knows what's going on. So, I mean, at the moment, we're looking at kind of bigger production companies that have established relationships with studios to just sort of find a mothership to then just get the right people on board and then just make it into the sort of big feature film that we all think it should be.
And are they advising, because I'm just curious, are they advising you with this to both have the feature and like a bit of I'll just use the term Bible of what a series of films would be?
So the advice we got, because one of the debates we had was, should we have a script now or should we just use the short? And the thinking was like, maybe they'll really love the idea in the short, but they might not like the execution of the script. And the original plan was, let's try and get with somebody like Atomic Monster, James Wan's production company, or somebody like that, and develop the script with them. But the advice we kind of got was that there's not a lot of money for development at the moment. People don't want to pay for any development. So have the script and do as much of the development as you can and be kind of ready to go. So I think that's kind of changed our approach. I think I'm going to get the script done now. And yeah, we're going to sort of have that approach with the short and the script.
It is so different than 5-10 years ago. I mean, there used to be people who could get away with I'm not really going to rewrite it or, write it or rewrite it till someone's paying me to. And it's like, well, now you can just wait forever because, I mean, in the 90s, there were, I think, 7 studios and they each bought, 300 to 500 screenplays a year. They would just option just to have them. And now nobody's stockpiling scripts at all. They want you to deliver something that's nearly ready.
Yeah. And also, even if they put money into development, there's no guarantee it's going to get made. So it's like,
and then you don't own it anymore either.
Yeah.
Then
so
you've lost your freedom.
Why would they not just go with the project that's already further along or complete with development? It's just sort of safer, I guess. So, but it's a strange industry to navigate at the moment.
At least, and I know you probably hear this, but at least you're doing the one genre the industry hasn't given up on.
Yeah, well, it's the only genre making money in theaters at the moment, so...
Right? It's the only one. And at the streaming level, too, it does quite well. I mean, people love it. I mean, we've got a 17-year-old who, only wants to watch horror films. And I get it. But also, horror's had a wonderful renaissance of variety, I say that as a kid of the 80s when it was very one-dimensional. Now, there's tons of... honestly, it's too bad that we have this basket called horror that we throw so many unrelated films into.
Yeah, I mean...
Because, like, you're making sophisticated artistic horror, in my opinion. Like, almost like classic horror. Whereas, there's the comedy horror, there's the lo-fi, there's all kinds of things.
Well, it's interesting you say that because I very purposefully made this as a very easy to watch sort of, I want to say kind of popcorn movie. Like we wanted to make that kind of something you'd watch with friends on a Saturday night kind of thing. And I've never really necessarily been a big fan of the more art house horror that takes itself a little too seriously. But people seem to sort of all say this is sophisticated horror, so it's like, okay,
yeah,
well,
but I didn't mean art housey.
No,
yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. People are also like, that's really messed up, and I'm like, I thought this was kind of a mild, easier to watch horror movie, but everyone's like, no, this is really messed up, and so it's like maybe my sort of.
That is one of the things I love most about working with festival juries and stuff is the variety of opinion. Because as the festival, like I'm the only person actually who sees everyone's opinions and ratings and comments, and it's fun. And it's fun because all our jurors know I'm the only one who reads them, so they have a lot of freedom, so they can say, "I fucking hated this one," and like they don't know I'm reading that, going, "That's like my favorite film in the festival. Like that's my favorite comedy." And you just said you didn't laugh once. I'm like, see, you and I should not be friends. But yeah, there's a variety of opinion. Yeah, so
it's interesting because with The Last Orders, it's quite a weird, slow burn, unconventional film, and I think it did quite well with horror nerds because it's a bit kind of different, and there's more for you to kind of play with and figure out, I guess. And a lot of the complaints, like it's a little bit hit and miss with people, especially like the comments on YouTube. Like some people either really love it, or some people are like, I have no idea what's going on and I'm bored. It's never like in the middle. And so it's kind of, or people are just quite confused. But it's like with Babushka, there are a couple of comments I saw, and I think it's Letterboxd, where they were like, "Oh, this is too on the nose," and it's just like, you can't please everybody. Like,
no, you definitely can't. And now it's funny. If we had been chatting, 2 weeks from now, I probably would have had time to go back and like visit Last Orders again because I haven't seen it. I think since we showed it in the theater in June of 2022. So, but I remember actually, if I were to use adjectives, I would probably lean on the sophisticated thing again. I've found the two films of yours that I've seen to just, I don't know why I'm leaning on the word sophisticated, but I just think that there's a maturity and an intelligence to the storytelling that impresses me. I mean, I found Last Orders to just be like great. Just you know what I mean? Like I'm just like, this is a filmmaker who is just delivering for their audience. Whereas, some films are also great, but I'm like, yeah, that's I don't know.
But it's good to hear. I mean, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I've lost all perspective now on my films because I'm so involved with them. I'm like,
you are literally, your nose is against the tree.
Yeah.
You're touching the bark of the tree, so you can't see that forest. Whereas for me, well, and also as someone who sees, my humble brag is Film Invasion gets around 700 films a year and Sherman Oaks gets around 800. So I start 1,500 films a year, and probably 10% is horror at least. Like, I mean, a lot of people make horror. And, a lot of people just make really uninteresting stuff that you've seen many times before and not well executed. Maybe it's your execution that impresses me. I don't know.
Well, it's funny because when we were on the first day of shooting, we were shooting the therapist scene with Haley. And I remember those first few shots, people were kind of whispering. They were like, "Oh my god, this looks like a huge Blumhouse movie," and like working with somebody of like Haley's caliber is great because it's like I'm looking at the director's monitor and it's just like I'm watching an actual movie, and like bearing in mind it's not graded and it's like everything's obviously still rough, but it's like she's able to just kind of command the screen in a way that you forget you're making a film. And Rob's cinematography as well, and everything, and O.J. Hansen, our production designer, who did an amazing job kind of dressing all these locations. It was just like it just looked like a movie that was done like whilst we were shooting it a lot of the time. And it's nice. It's nice to have that as opposed to what you're usually used to with indie filmmaking, which is like, I'm going to have to sort of crop that out in post and change this, and like, so it's like, it's really nice just getting to work with such talented people.
I can't tell you how many times people have come to the festivals to support a friend and then talk to me out in that lobby and they go, those are real movies. Like when people come if they're not familiar with the festival world and the quality of some shorts out there, most people just assume a short film is going to look like something kids made, right? Like, I think the bias is student films. Students make shorts and everyone else makes like someone who's not involved in it at all. And those people are always amazed by the quality of the shorts at our festivals. But I've had friends come over and they're like, show me something. So we'll like open up Film Freeway and my wife always makes like certain suggestions and we'll watch the films. And I always hear that. These are real movies. And I'm like, no, they're better than the movies that are coming out because they have everything that Hollywood has, but then they're actually inspired and they're made for the right reasons because people are making it because they need to, not because they're like, okay, we own some IP. Let's see how we can squeeze some more money out of it.
Yeah.
which is, but I certainly hope for you that someday you will just be squeezing the money out of the boot. You'll be like, okay, Babushka 7. I could give two shits. Let someone else write that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because like you sort of directors will do the first one, maybe the second one. But I kind of like the idea of doing a trilogy myself. I feel a little bit like if people really love something, like I almost feel like you have a bit of a duty to do a solid trilogy before you then go, all right, I'm going to go and drink mojitos on a beach somewhere whilst somebody else does it. But like, I kind of miss solid trilogies in horror movies.
I'm with you. The last one I can remember, I remember that Fear Street trilogy that was on Netflix a few years back. I wish I could name the director. She did an amazing job, but it was a trilogy where they kept going. Each one was earlier in time. They did like a current, or I think they did, whatever. I'd have to talk about some other film, but I'm with you. There's something, it is interesting. I wonder if there's some university professor somewhere who studied why human beings love things in threes. But somehow it just works. I guess it's beginning, middle, end, maybe.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I don't know.
But each film has its own beginning, middle, and end. But yeah, it's of a bigger story.
Yeah.
And then once you go beyond 3, it's always like, do I need to watch this? No, I don't. Well, so the focus is moving forward is this Babushka feature-length script and then preparing the whole pitch thing. Are your LA-based peeps going to handle a lot of that for you? Or are you going to be losing tons of sleep on these late-night flights?
Well, so Taylor, our producer, has gone over to Australia. That's where she's based now. Paul is still based here in LA, and I'm sort of usually in London. So we're kind of around the world at the moment, sort of just all trying to do what we can to just get it in front of the right people. Like I think everyone believes in the film so much. Like we know what we've got. It's just getting it in front of the right eyes. And like I think we all feel like if we can do that, like they'll love it. They'll see what we've got. But it's just it's the challenge of just getting it in front of those people. So we've just started the festival journey. It's going pretty well so far.
Are you imagining about a year of festivals or 6 months to 6 to 9, or I'll give it a whole year?
A year and a bit, probably.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, festivals were never the priority, obviously, with it being so long. but yeah, we just want as many people to see it as possible, really.
Yeah, and that, I mean, I always see that as it always strikes me as interesting. Obviously, horror features are the ones that are most likely to get picked up by a distributor at the indie level. And so it hasn't happened for a few years, but I'm about to say that we've had indie features slotted for our festival that then a distributor will say, we love it, we're taking it. You have to tell those 7 festivals you're playing in the next 4 months that you're pulling out.
Yeah.
And I always go, I understand, but what don't they get about word of mouth? Like if 65 people see it at Filmvasion LA, that's just 65 people who, when it comes out, can tell their friends, oh, I saw that at a festival. Like, because horror fans are friends with horror fans. Like, it can only help. I never understand the retract from small screenings all around the world here and there. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I'm not sure that side of the industry makes a lot of sense. A lot of the time, it's definitely a bit of a mystery to me. My expertise is in production and like I know
as
what I'm doing
often is, as it often is,
yeah.
The artist needs to work on their art, and it is. Believe me, I have an ocean of empathy for the filmmakers who need to face the next step, because it is. I guess that's why our film distribution panel is so well attended at the festival every year, because it's and it's always changing. That's the thing. Or I guess I would have, if it was 1989, I wouldn't say it's always changing. Distribution had, the big changes were VHS to DVD. I guess VHS was very disruptive, because all of a sudden it wasn't just sell it to TV, edit it with commercials, and then let it run for like the next 10 years every once in a while on television late at night. Yeah, now it's very different. All right, so everything's always changed. Well, anything else we should mention, or?
Probably lots of things. Nothing that comes to mind, but yeah, I mean, just thank you to everyone that's been involved and for everyone's work.
Yeah. You've named your key collaborators. Do you want to think?
So our 2 lead actors, Hayley McFarland and Quinn Arney, who is now becoming a bit of a superstar, is doing lots of really amazing, exciting things. And yeah, just everybody involved for all of their sacrifice and hard work. And thank you to you for the festival, of course.
No. Thanks for thanks for being one of those alumni who ups their game. What can I say? I appreciate it. Whenever people thank us for their work being in the festival, I always want to say, we just program good films. So, thank you for making a good film, because you can imagine what happens to me if I'm sitting on that couch and I see like 20 terrible films in a row as I'm going through screeners, and I start to like sit there and think to myself, oh my God, we've rented the theater. We've rented X amount of hours at a theater, and there's nothing good this year. Oh my God, but then there's always enough great films. I just, then you'll see 5 good ones in a row, I guess. But it's a roller coaster just watching them.
Yeah. Well, I hope we can come back with the feature version.
Oh, that would be so cool. I mean, I would almost hope for you that you're working with people who are like, no, you got to premiere at bigger festivals. But who knows? Maybe by then we'll be a big enough festival for a big premiere.
Yeah.
But we did a world premiere yesterday, and it went great. So, excellent. All right, well, website, social media, is there stuff you want people to check out if they want to see your earlier work and learn more about where Babushka is heading?
Yeah, so my website's just jonjamesmith.com. You can find me on YouTube, where you'll find Last Orders, my previous film. And then we're on Instagram, just Jon James Smith or Babushka Movie. And then, you'll find us if you search for those.
Excellent. All right. Well, I will do my closing wrap-up, which is, I do have it in front of me. I mean, I almost have it memorized, but this is my first podcast in 2 months, because I do a 2-month shutdown. So everything that's been released for the last 2 months I do a 6-week shutdown before the festival, because needless to say, can't sit down and have like 3 2-hour conversations a week when a festival is brewing, because I would be sitting here across from the person going, I have 1,000 things to do. I have 1,000 things to do. I'm interested in what you're saying, but I would lose my mind. So thank you, Jon, for coming over. And I guess I'll mention, too, that I've been inviting you onto the podcast for years, actually, since Last Orders. And you, because you have connections here in LA, you were always like, I want to do it in person when I do it.
Yeah, it's just different, isn't it? The atmosphere and the energy is just different when you're sat with somebody.
Yeah, I mean, Zoom is better than nothing, and sometimes you fool yourself into thinking it's eye contact, but yeah, it's just better in person. And you knew you'd be out in LA sometime, so we did this. And we're doing it. We're doing it the day after Film Invasion LA and 2 days after the premiere of Babushka. So the LA premiere of Babushka. So let me go ahead and ramble off on myself. Well, first, I guess I'll go out of order for a change, because we've talked about Film Invasion Los Angeles many times. If you want to learn about that festival that we hold every June, go to filminvasionla.com, and it's at Film Invasion LA on social media. It has a sister festival, Sherman Oaks Film Festival, that we hold every December. You can learn more at ShermanOaksFF.com, and it's at ShermanOaksFF on social media. Both are ranked in the top 100 best reviewed out of 14,000 in the world. Always have to brag about that. And I call them sister festivals. They get a cousin next year. January 2026, we're going to have Film Invasion Lima, Peru. Kind of excited about that. And the last thing to say is thank you for listening to the Discovery Indie Film podcast. If you want to learn more about the podcast, it's discoveryindiefilm.com. And on social media, it's always at DIFWins. And if you love indie film, those two festivals I mentioned are run by a nonprofit called the Discovery Indie Film Foundation. And you can learn more about that at discoveryindiefilm.org. And, if you're listening to this and you're a person who just loves indie film, donations to a nonprofit are tax deductible in the United States. Just saying. I'm trying to learn how to beg for money. I'm not good at it. All right, Jon, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, everyone, for listening.